Okay, so to make the size 4 cardigan, you'll need 2 Caron Cakes in your desired color. You'll need a 5.5 millimeter crochet hook, and you'll also need a 5 millimeter crochet hook. You'll need 2 buttons, an inner button and an outer button. About 20 to 25 mil size is fine. You can adjust your buttonhole if you want a larger button. You'll need your measuring tape, scissors, and optional is a garment tag. It's really nice to personalize your pieces, and I will have in the description box below a link to Brick Bubble's website if you're interested in having some tags made. Okay, so my scale is on grams, and I'm just going to sit the cardigan on top, and as you can see here, we need about 250 grams to make a size 4 cardigan. Before we begin, it's a really great idea to make a gauge swatch for this project. So we're going to do that with our 5.5 millimeter hook. So just put this on. We'll start it with a chain. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and I'm going to do 2 more for my turning chain. Okay, so the swatch will be 20 stitches wide. So what you'll do is half double crochet in the 3rd chain from the hook. So 1, 2, 3. And half double crochet into each stitch across, or each chain across. Okay, so I've worked all the way across my chain. You can turn, chain 2, and then we're going to work 1 half double crochet in the front loop, which is right here, that very first loop. Just go through it. So working through the front loop only for the entire gauge swatch, okay? So we're just doing half double crochets. For garments, it's really important that you have a correct gauge, and you can adjust your hook size accordingly so that you match the same gauge as I have for this pattern, because you do want, if you take the time to make this cardigan, you do want it to fit properly. The sizing for a size 4 is to fit a chest measurement of approximately 23 inches, and the finished chest is approximately 25. So you want to look at the child you're making the cardigan for, and then you want your gauge to line up so that it comes out fitting nicely. So I'm just going to continue to work off camera my little swatch. So just continue working in rows, probably 11 or 12 rows. And then we'll measure out our 4 inches in stitches and rows. Okay, so I finished up my little swatch. It should be a square shape. And then you can use your ruler. I just have this little one here that I'm going to use, and you just want to measure how many stitches you have in 4 inches. So I have 16 stitches in 4 inches. Hang on here. Yeah, there we go. I have 10 rows, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 16 stitches. So what I did find using the Caron Big Cakes My gauge was a little bit different, so if you're using different yarn or using Caron Cakes Big, I find it shifts the gauge slightly. I had 15 stitches and 9 rows with Caron Cakes Big, so it's important that you do test out your gauge, do a little gauge swatch, and change your hook accordingly so that you get the same gauge as I have here. So this cardigan is worked from the side across. So we're going to begin with a slip knot, and we're using our larger hook, so our 5.5 millimeter crochet hook, and just tighten that on your hook. So my starting chain for a size 4 is 60. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I'll just continue making my chain off camera. Okay, so I have chained 60, and now we're going to work 1 half double crochet in the 3rd chain from the hook. So there's 1, 2, 3 chains. So a half double crochet, you yarn over, go through that 3rd chain, pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through all 3. So we will work half double crochet stitches all the way across into each chain. So in total, for row 1, we will have 58 half double crochet stitches. So I'll continue working across my chain off camera, and I will meet you at the end. Okay, so I have completed my row 1, and I have 58 stitches. Now you might just want to count your stitches to be sure. And what you can also do, this is our row 1 is our right side. And it is handy if you have removable stitch markers to just mark that that is your right side of your work. You can also just use some scrap yarn. And if you're following along with the pattern, it will tell you that row 1 is your right side. That will be important for where you finish these rows, because it is a fairly basic pattern. You just need to end certain times on your wrong side or right side. So what we're going to do next is turn and chain 2. And for row 2, we're going to work in the front loop only. So if you look at the top of your stitch, you'll see the 2 loops. This here is your front loop, and your stitch back here is your back loop. And by working into either or loop, it gives you a nice ribbed texture. So for the texture of the cardigan, I would like it to have the front loop only look with half double crochets, and then our band will be worked in single crochets in the back loop only, and you can kind of see the difference here. So the back loop only gives us in a single crochet that nice stretchy band, and then our front loop only gives us this nice ribbed flatter texture. So yarn over, take your hook and just go right under the front loop only, pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through all 3. So yarn over, go through the front loop only, pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through all 3. So this row that we're working on, row 2, is now the wrong side of our work. So the front right of our cardigan that we're working on right now, this is the front right side. We are just going to work rows of half double crochet in the front loop only for a total of 7 inches. So we're going to work until we have 7 inches. So this is why we need our measuring tape. So if you take a measure, we've got 2 rows are about 1 inch, and you're going to want to keep crocheting rows until you have 7 inches. So it gets you this much work before we make the first armhole. Okay, so I've completed row 2, and this is the wrong side. So you're just going to want to repeat row 2 until you have 7 inches, okay? So once you get to 7 inches, I want you ending on a wrong side row, just like I am right here. For purposes of this video, I'm just going to go ahead and show you how to make your armhole, because this pattern is very repetitious. You're just going to keep repeating rows with the exception of the armholes. Okay, so for the armhole now, we're going to turn and be on our right side of our work. And for size 4, you're going to work 1 half double crochet in the front loop only of the next 12. Okay, so here's the first. Remember, you are going to have 7 inches worth of work before you start this. Okay, so there's 2. 3, 4, and just repeat this until you have 12 stitches. Okay, so I have worked 12 stitches, and now we're going to chain 19. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Okay, so this is going to be your armhole. So now what we're going to do is just skip 19 stitches along our row here. So you just want to count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 16, 17, 18, 19. So into the 20th stitch, yarn over, go into the 20th, and pull through. Okay, so there's your armhole made. Again, just remember you'll have 7 inches worth of work there for the front right of the cardigan. And then just continue now working in the front loop only in each stitch across. Okay, so I've worked all the way down my armhole row. We're going to turn and chain 2, and now we're basically starting on to the back when we work this next row. So we should be on the wrong side of our work now. And you're just going to work 1 half double crochet in the front loop of each stitch across. And then when we get to our chain, we'll work in each of the chains across. So I'll continue working in the front loop only here. And once I get to the chain, I'll meet back up with you. Okay, so I've worked 27 stitches. And now we're going to begin working into this chain for the armhole. So we have 19 chains, so we'll have 19 half double crochets in each chain across. So in total, remember, we have 58 stitches. So if we have 27 stitches of the bottom, 19 for the armhole, and then 12 for the upper part of the cardigan. So you're just doing a half double crochet in each chain. Okay, so I've worked 19 half double crochets across my chain. So now we're going to work in the front loop again of the next 12. Just working in the front loop only. So for the back section now, you're going to continue working half double crochet rows in the front loop only until your back piece measures 8 inches. So you want 8 inches, and you're also going to end on a wrong side row again, because we will work our next armhole on the right side, just the same as we did this one. So work 8 inches, and then when it's time to make that armhole again, you'll be on your right side and you'll work it exactly the same way as we worked this one. Okay? So we work 7 inches, make an armhole, work 8 inches, make an armhole, and then work 7 inches again, and it's all worked in half double crochets in the front loop only. So you can just continue working on your piece. You can sit and watch TV. It's a pretty simple, repetitive instructions for the first part of the cardigan, and then I'm going to meet you up at the end and we'll move on to the next section. So when you end with your 7 inches, I want you to end on a right side. So you're going to work until you have 7 inches, and then you want to be sure that you're ending off on the right side of the work. Okay, so whoops, you can work away on that and I'll meet you up later. Okay, so I'm going to work on the band for our cardigan. We're using a smaller hook now, so I'm using a 5mm crochet hook. You're just going to want to make a slip knot, put that on the hook. Okay, so we're wanting our band to be 12 stitches in width for our child size cardigan. So we're going to chain 13 to begin. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. So now what you're going to do is do 1 single crochet in the second chain from the hook. So there's 1 and 2. And just single crochet into each stitch across. Each chain across. Okay, I've reached the end of my chain, and you just want to double check, count your stitches to ensure that you have 12. I like to just count these stitches here. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. So now we'll turn and chain 1. And for the band, we work in the back loop. So here's your front loop. There's your back loop. So we're working 1 single crochet in the back loop of each stitch across. And then we'll have 12 stitches. And then you'll just chain 1, turn and chain 1, and just continue working in the back loop, and you're going to want a total of 80 rows, and that will be the complete band to go over the bottom of your cardigan. Okay, so I finished up the sweater, the cardigan portion, and I've also worked away on my band here. So let me just get, okay, so this is the right side. I can tell here by my edges. This is the right side, and you can mark your work when you start out if you find that that's easier. And then this is the right side of my band. I always like to look at my band so that I see a full ridge here. So each ridge is 2 rows. So we're working with an even number of rows, so the ridge will end here. So I have the right side facing of the cardigan, the right side facing of the band. So you want to just flip the band over so right sides are facing. And now take a couple clips. It's always handy to have little clips on hand for your project. So you just want to clip it so that when we're sewing, we evenly sew this band. So I have 80 rows in total. So if we count 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28, 30, 32, 34, 36, 38, 40. So here is the center of the band. So right about here, I'm just counting rather than getting my, that is the center. And I'm just going to clip this one to the side. My tail's actually at this end. So I'm going to move my clip to the side here. And then I'm just going to use my tail to sew the band. Okay, so you want to take your threading needle, tapestry needle, come to your edge here, and you could already have this end here weaved in. I just haven't got that done yet. And always go through your first stitch twice, and I'm just going to knot that for extra security. Okay, and then just pull as you go, and we're just going to stitch this. And try not to go too far into the pink because we're using the red end. So we don't want it to be super noticeable on the cardigan. So we're just going to seam that all the way across, and just make sure you keep pulling to make sure that you've just got the right amount of stretch. So I'm just going to continue with that off camera. Okay, so let's begin on our sleeve. And we'll start with the ribbing for the sleeve. We're using our smaller hook to begin with. And we're going to chain 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then we'll do 1 single crochet in the second chain from the hook. So 1, 2, and 1 single crochet into each chain across. Okay, and now we'll turn our work and chain 1. And now we'll work into the back loop only. So the front loop is here, and then this is our back loop. So instead of going under and through both of the stitches, you're just going through that back loop, pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through 2. So work 1 single crochet into each stitch across, working in the back loop only. And now turn again, chain 1, and we'll just continue working into the back loop only. So you will continue working in rows by repeating that second row until we have 20 rows. So I'm just going to complete the band, working the ribbing band off camera, and then I'll meet you up when I've finished my 20 rows. Okay, so I've worked my ribbing, and I like to count by looking at our little ridges here. So there's 1 row and there's 2 rows. So for every ridge you can just count by 2s and it makes it a lot quicker. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. Okay, so now what we're going to do is work along the long edge here of our ribbing in single crochet stitches. Okay, so again, you know, for every ridge here you're going to have 2 single crochet stitches. So there's 1. Actually, first I want to chain 1 and then do a single crochet stitch, and then on this side of that ridge another single crochet stitch. 1 on this side and 1 on the next side. So now I've got 4. And you just want to go across so that you have 20 single crochet stitches. Okay, so I've worked my 20 single crochet stitches, and now what we're going to do is switch our hook. So we're going to go back now to our 5.5 millimeter hook, and then we'll chain 2. And now we're going to go back to working in our front loop only. So you're going to yarn over, and there's our very first stitch, and just go through that front loop. So we're working half double crochets in the front loop only of each stitch across. Okay, so I've worked across 20 stitches. So we're going to turn and chain 2. And we're going to work 2 more rows, just even in half double crochet with no increase. So working in the front loop only. So we'll do this row, and then we'll complete another row without any increases. So I'm going to complete this row and my next row, and then I'll meet you up to show you our increase rows. Okay, so I have completed my non-increase rows, so now we're going to increase. So we want our sleeve to be even, so we'll increase the first stitch and the last stitch. So working a half double crochet in the front loop only, we're going to place 2 half double crochets, okay, into the first stitch, and then work 1 in each stitch across, until we reach the last stitch. Okay, and I'm just coming up to my last stitch here. And we're going to place 2 half double crochets in that front loop only. Okay, and now we can chain 2 and turn. So there's our increase, and now what we'll do is the next 2 rows will be non-increase rows. So we now have 22 stitches. The next 2 rows we'll keep at 22 stitches, okay, and then we'll increase again. We want a total of 30 stitches in width for our size 4 cardigan. This will be a fairly snug fit sleeve. So we only have about 1/2 inch of ease to this sleeve, just so it's not super skin tight, but it will be a fairly fitted look. I actually altered my daughter's just a little bit, and this is where you can customize based on your child's arm width. Megan wanted hers tight to her arm, so I just did hers a little bit tighter than the actual pattern measurement for a size 8. And then another child may prefer a looser sleeve, so you can increase your sleeve accordingly. Just look at the different sizes and just alter your armhole depth and your sleeve width and cap to get the right fit for you or your child. Okay, so I'm just going to do one more row without an increase, and then I'm going to increase the next row. Okay, so we're on to our next increase row. So we'll do 2 in the first stitch, front loop only, and then 1 into each stitch across. And then you'll add 2 in the last. So that will bring us up to 24 stitches. So again, our pattern is increase a row and then do 2 rows of non-increase. And so continue working increases until you have 32 stitches. Okay, so this is how my little sleeve's looking. I've worked up to 32 stitches, and I'm just gonna do 2 of my non-increase rows, and then we'll probably be getting really close to the 11.5 inches that we need. So I will work on these next 2 rows and meet you back, and we'll measure our sleeve. Okay, so let's just measure. So we're at 11 inches. So I basically just am gonna want probably 1 more row to get to our 11.5 inches for a size 4. So just 1 more row, working in the front loop only, and then we're going to work on the sleeve cap because I've designed this so that the sleeve will be nice and fitted on your shoulder. There's nothing worse than having those shoulders falling down and not feeling like you've got a well-fitted garment. So I will finish up this row and then I will meet you back for that cap. Okay, so for the cap, what we're gonna do is a half double crochet tog in the first 2 stitches. And now we're still working in the front loop only. So just go through the first and the next, pulling up a loop, yarn over and pull through all 4. And then go through the front loop of each stitch across until we get to the final 2 stitches, and then we'll do another tog. Okay, so we just have 2 stitches remaining, so we're going to do another tog, pull up a loop, go right into the next, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through all 4 and chain 2 and turn. Okay, so now what we're going to do for this cap is we're going to continue to decrease every row the first 2 stitches and the last 2 stitches. Now, right here, before you started to decrease, you can mark each side, and that will come in handy later as well when we sew, when we seam in the sleeves. So you can mark each side. Just use some scrap yarn, whatever you have, just to mark those rows. I'm just going to continue working my decrease rows off camera, and I'll meet you back when I have done my 3.5 inches. Okay, so I've worked 6 rows of decreasing the first 2 and the last 2 stitches. Now I really want to get a nice curve rather than this shape here on my cap. So let's chain 2 and turn. And instead of doing a decrease just for the first 2, we're going to actually decrease the first 4. So yarn over and do an HDC tog in the first 2, and we'll do another tog in the next 2. And then just we'll work across until we come to our remaining 4 stitches. And we will just repeat that. So I'll work across and meet you when I get to the final 4. Okay, so I have 4 stitches remaining. So yarn over, go through, and just go right into the next and pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 4. And for the last 2 stitches as well. Okay, and then we're going to do this for 1 more row. So just those final 2 rows, and you're going to see how it curves. Gives us more of a curve to our cap, which is, we're going for a rounded look. Okay, so I've worked 2 half double crochet togs over the first 4 stitches. And we're still working in the front loops, and we'll just work all the way across. Okay, so I have 4 stitches remaining, and we've reduced our cap to 12 stitches. Okay, so as you can see, we have a little bit better curve at the top now, and you can just fasten off, and then we can weave that end in. We'll get all our ends weaved, and we want to keep those stitch markers there. And we'll just trim. Okay, so I haven't marked my right side, but this is my right side here. If you are unsure, just look back in the pattern. Your right side will be row 1, and I can just tell here by my edge that this is my right side. So we're going to seam our sleeve. Okay, and we're going to use the mattress stitch to seam, and we're going to work all the way from the cuff up to our stitch markers. So you'll need some yarn, and you can estimate by about twice the length we're going to be sewing. It's a good rule of thumb. And to start out, we're just going to go through each of the stitches, and we're going to want to knot this to make sure we've got a good start. I'm just going to go again. We don't want that coming undone. Okay, and for the mattress stitch, we're not going to go through and do a whip stitch. What you're going to do is come over to the side of the stitch, And then you're going to go over to the opposite side and do the same thing. And then just pull. Okay. So then the next stitch, okay, we're going here. And then go over to the other side, and again, going there. And then that will just pull tight as you go. Doing the mattress stitch to seam this is going to result in a really nice finish. And you won't see the difference in the color as we go, because this will just tuck away. You want to match it up as good as you can, but because the colors are changing as we work up the sleeve, we won't be able to see. And I'll just show you the difference here. The first one I put right sides facing and use the pink, and as you can see, we can see the stitching, and I'm just not happy with the way that looks. So if we use the mattress stitch, we're not going to see the stitching, which is what I like. And you definitely need to use the mattress stitch when we fit in this into our opening. Okay, so just so you can see the difference, you can't see the seam, whereas you can here. So I'm just coming up to the end. You want to come right up to those stitch markers. Getting into this very last row. I'm just going to take them off now because I know where I need to finish. And we can knot. Okay, and you're going to want to weave that into the inside. So as you can see, you do have a little bit more of a bulk inside using this stitch, but it's definitely better if you don't want to see the color that you're using. Okay, so weave and trim. And then you can weave this end as well. I'm going to pull this one out and redo that, but in the meantime, I'm going to show you how we're going to put the sleeve into the cardigan. So this is our opening, and we're going to want to sew that right in so that we have a nice fitted shoulder. Okay, so I have some clips, but I think I'm going to use yarn. So you want to go down in the center, and then you want the center join. And I am just going to tie that in place. Okay. And then you also want to find your center of your cap. Put your hook through and your center of your armhole. Just pull your yarn through and tie it, and this is just going to keep everything centered and in place. Okay. Then what you want to do is we're going to stitch. You just want to pull it so it's nice and even. And we're going to use the mattress stitch again to seam our shoulder here. So I'm going to grab a good long strand. And you want to start down here at the bottom, because you want to weave all your ends in your underarm area where you're not going to see that join. Just going to pull that out of the way now that my stitch is in. And we're just going to go back in again, and you want to get a couple good knots to start here. Okay. So when you stretch that out, see how nicely that just curves right in. And then just as I showed you before, we're working the mattress stitch. And this is really going to give us a nice secure stitch too. We want to be sure that our arm is stitched in there well. As you can see how nice this comes together and just hides all of the stitching. So I'm just going to continue working up to my next stitch marker. My hand keeps getting in the way so you can't see what I'm doing. That's as easy as it is. Okay, so I've worked up to my next stitch marker, so I'm just going to remove that. We're to the center area here, so I'm just going to get in here and just work that center bit. Make sure that's all coming together nice. Okay, see how nice that's looking? It's just fitting in here really nice, and then as you can see, it's a really nice sturdy join. So now what we want to do is just make sure that we have this all lined up perfectly. then I'm just going to continue working, seaming all of this all the way back down. Okay, so I've just finished up. I've got my ends here and I want to put them inside, and we're going to weave everything, all these ends on the inside of the cardigan. We don't want to see this pink yarn weaving through our right side. So just push them in and then weave those ends in really well. So there is our sleeve. As you can see, it's fairly long, but it's kind of fun to be able to just cuff that over for your little one. Okay, so you're going to want to join on with your 5mm crochet hook right into that bottom stitch. And chain one. And now we're going to work in the back loop of each stitch across. So our band on the front of the cardigan is all going to be worked in single crochet stitches in the back loop only. So for this side, as you can see, this was our starting chain, so we can't really work into the back loop, so you're just going to work into each stitch across, and then as we work back down, we'll work into the back loop. Okay, so I've worked all the way to the top, so I've chained one and we're going to turn. And then you can begin working in the back loop only of each stitch across. And we're just going to continue doing this for a total of 7 rows. And then you'll do this on your other side as well, but instead of starting at the bottom, you're going to start at the top. Okay, so I've been working on the bands. So I completed this side. Now what we're doing is putting buttonholes at the top because it's good to have a button on the inside and the outside just to hold this from falling down when it's being worn. And also I ended up changing up and I was going to have quite a bit left over on my second ball of Caron Cakes, so I wanted the color to blend. Now you don't have to do this, but if you want it to look as though it's just continuing from the color, as you can see, I had this little bit of dark pink here, so I just went with the dark pink. And then I also went with finishing up with the red on this side. So when working on the other side here, I've just done a single crochet for my first row the entire length because this is your starting chain here, so you can't work into the back loop. So that first row we've just worked in a regular single crochet across, and this is the 6th row I'm working on here, and I'm going to show you how to make your buttonhole. So we're working in the back loop only, and we're gonna come up here till we have 3 stitches remaining. Okay, so there's 1, 2, 3. So now you're gonna chain 2 and skip 2 stitches and then 1 single crochet in the last stitch. Chain 1 and turn. And our final 7th row, when we're working on our right side, instead of working into the back loop, we're just gonna work a single crochet stitch, and that's just gonna keep our edge from curling. So work 1 single crochet into that first, and then our chain 2 space here, we'll work 2 single crochets. And then just continue to single crochet down the entire edge. And then when you get to the bottom, you can just fasten off and weave that end. And then the important thing is, when we finish this, is you want to block or steam your edges because they will curl. As you can see here, they're curling. By blocking this, it's just going to help that to lay flat. Now I've already attached 1 pocket, and I'm going to show you how to do that. It's really, really simple. Okay, so we're gonna work on the pocket. You're using your 5.5mm crochet hook, and we're working in the same stitch pattern as the cardigan. So to begin, we're going to chain 16. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. And we're going to do a half double crochet in the 3rd chain from the hook. So 1, 2, 3. And work 1 half double crochet into each chain across. So I've worked all the way to the end of my row, so let's turn and chain 2. And now we're going to start working in our front loops only. So work 1 half double crochet in the front loop only of each stitch across. We'll repeat row 2 for a total of 7 rows. And then that will complete our pocket. So after you finished row 7, fasten off, leaving a long tail for sewing the pocket to the cardigan. Okay, so for our pocket, I've already placed this one on. You can decide where you want your pocket yourself. You can just adjust, but make sure you do them even on each side. So I can see I have this flat section here, this row, and then we're gonna sew to this ridge. If you sew on the ridge, it just kind of helps give you a clear stitch mark. So make sure you leave the same amount on the bottom. So now you can fasten off, leaving a long tail, and then you won't have to join on another piece of yarn. But I made mine too small, so I've just weaved my ends in. So to start, a little closer here, we're gonna go through a knot. You wanna make sure the top of your pocket is secured well. And then as you can see here, you just want to pick up that loop and then 1 loop on your pocket. and just go stitch by stitch. And that is just a good guide to make sure you're sewing your pocket on evenly. Okay, so I'm just going to continue sewing and then I'll meet you at the bottom. Okay, and now you don't have a guide along the bottom, but you still just want to pick up a strand and just work your way across, and just be sure that you are sewing it evenly across the bottom. And then when you get over to this side, you're just going to do the same thing along this ridge, grabbing one strand and all the way up, and then you can weave in your ends. Okay, so to finish off the cardigan, we're going to add some buttons. So you can add your inside button on either side. It just depends how you want the cardigan to cross over. So just above your armhole opening, you can attach your inner button, and you can coordinate it however you want with the color of the cardi. And then you'll add your decorative button to the outside. Now, if you want to use a clip, you don't have to attach a button, and then you don't, if you want to wear the cardigan open, you're not seeing a button there. But for a child, I think it's a good idea to add the button rather than a clip. So then all you do when you're wearing fasten your inside button, and then your little collar can fold over. I actually, from my initial sample here, I did make this collar a little bit longer in the pattern, which the video does follow, so this will fold over a little bit better than what I have here. And then you can also finish the pattern off by adding a personalized tag. I think it looks cute on the pocket.